and welcome to another YouTube video. My name is Sarah Glatzhofer, better known as SJ Glatzhofer, and today we're going to do a little bookshelf tour. As you can see behind me, there is a wonderful bookshelf, and you might be able to tell there's kind of a few different categories. We will go through that soon, but this isn't my only bookshelf. I do have a few more. This is my latest. We start up here and then we go down here and then we go here. But this one's the one that's more organised. Well, the most organised, because this is the one I thought more of how it should be laid out and everything, whereas the other two is just more from when I was younger and just putting my books there. So there's not really an order, but we shall go there and talk about them. So let's go. Now this is the first part of my bookshelf. It's a bit messy, as you can see. Up here we have some DVDs. Oh, this is from my parents' 25th anniversary. But here we have the first part of the books. And I tried to make this as possible series, but you'll see after that I didn't really follow through. Okay, let's start with the first bookshelf, the first area of this tour. Now first, let me quickly say something. You might see these socks and be thinking, why there's socks here? I was a big fan of Little Mermaid, I still am. Love the one that came out this year. So these socks were my favourite socks and I just, you know, wanted to hang them up. So let's start. So quite a few of these books are from when I was a teenager, like up here, compared to the books to the left of me. But let's start with one of my favourite books of when I was a teenager, called Signs of Love. You can clearly tell I have always been a big romantic reader, I guess. But I really like this one because basically it was, I'm gonna guess she was the main character. This is how the main character looked like, because she's on the cover. But Gemma Stone is basically, she becomes this writer for the school magazine called Jessica Jupiter, and she kind of writes horoscopes, and she helps her friend, like her best friend, get with a guy that she really likes through the horoscopes, but she also not accidentally because she also ends up liking this guy, but manages to get with this guy that she likes because like through these horoscopes, and surprisingly she is really dot on with her horoscopes, like what she writes actually kind of come true. So I really like this series, and I'm really tempted now, just now that I'm picking them up, I'm really tempted to read these again, just to be like, memories. Now here's some just one-off books. I don't really know why they're there. I didn't have a plan of why I did this. I did try to make it more of a series, but you'll see that didn't really go through because not all the books could fit in there, and it's just like, yeah. But yeah, but let's talk about this series. I wish she made it into a trilogy or something because it's so good. But this one, basically a whole class in this one, they start being able to hear people's thoughts and they don't understand why, how does this happen, and then this one is them like carries on the story of all these people. But the problem is, in this one, they start to lose it. So yeah, it was really cool because I just remember reading it being like, oh my god, can you imagine being able to hear people's thoughts? Like, you'd think you'd be going crazy. And it was probably really, really hard. And also, can you imagine all like the negative thoughts you can hear? Now we have the Divergent series, which I did quite enjoy. I got big time in dystopian dystopian novel books, YA dystopian novel books, from the start of the Hunger Games. Very big fan of the Hunger Games. Can't wait for the prequel movie to come out. Very excited. We will see those books soon. Let's go to one of my favourite series ever. Here are my Percy Jackson series. My all-time favourite one is this one. I just really like, because I really like the character Annabeth, and I feel like in this book, like also in the other books, but this one she fully really took the lead, because if I recall, I think this was her mission, like she took the lead in this mission, if I recall. So I really liked seeing it, her taking lead, even though all the other missions and quests, that's what it's called, quests that they went on, she knew what she was doing and what she was on about. But this one was like, she was the main one from the start, if I'm correct. I am, of course, really looking forward for the series that's coming out later on this year. But I have to admit, I did watch the movies first, and don't shame me, I did like the movies, but I like the movies when you separate it from the books. So I watched the movies and I was like, oh, that's so cool, like, because I really like the mythology. And so then I got the books, and then I read how different the books are to the movies, like the first 2 books. And I was a bit like, oh, that's kind of sad. So then when you put the movies and the books together, the movie isn't that great because they didn't adapt it that well, because a lot of things would change, some of the characters weren't the same. And of course, when movies are adapted from books, there's going to be slight differences, but the whole storyline just seemed like a complete different storyline. Like the path from the beginning to the end just was all different. But I'm happy that the series shouldn't be like that. Let's talk about this bad boy, Black Beauty. You can see it's all... But this book is the first ever book that I read all by myself when I was 8. So I had a speaking problem when I was younger, and I still do find it difficult. But when I was 8, that's when I started to be able to speak better and was able to pronounce more words clearer than before. Like I can pronounce the R's better, the W's, like you could tell the difference. So if I say wing or ring, you can actually tell the difference, and other certain things. So this book was the first book I read all by myself after, I guess, being able to speak properly. And it took me a long time, I remember, but it will forever hold a special place in my heart, because when I look at this book, it's just a reminder of everything I achieved, and also pretty much the beginning of my love for books and the journey of me falling in love with books, even though sometimes I don't read all the time. These are the books up here. Let's move down below. Welcome to the second bookshelf. This one is sitting on the floor. But look, we got some, what's it called? The money things. But here's a first shelf. As you can see, that's not really in order. This probably has some more, what's it called, series. Got some hardcover books. And then right at the bottom, look at the Hunger Games. But let's go and talk about these lovely books. Okay, here we are, the next bookshelf. Now let's talk about this one. We have some comic books in here. But let's talk about this one. This I enjoyed. What I'm going to talk about is, so I wrote a romance novel. I have, that one's gone through so many drafts, it needs to be sent off, and hopefully you guys might have a chance to read it. We shall see. I have 10 other ideas for romance, and they all fit in the same world. So I called my book Miss You, because it was basically about these 2 characters who were together but broke up when they were 18 because they both wanted 2 different things, and they agreed, especially she did, I'm not going to tell you their names, she said it'd be best for us to go separate ways, because what he wanted to do was going to end up being in the eyes of the public. He's not an actor, I'll tell you that. But yeah, so it was called Miss, and then 10 years after they bumped into each other. Anyway, it's called Miss You because they did miss each other. But then I saw this book when, just before I left for uni, and I was very sad because I was like, I can't now name that book Miss You. But I ended up calling it something else, which I won't tell you because I don't want to put it out there and then find a book and it has the same name as my book. But it fits very, very well, and I'm like, yes. Okay, on to the next books. We Have a Beautiful Creatures. I'm so sad that the movies didn't do well, but I really liked it because of the witchiness. Yeah, I'm sad that the movies never did well, but hey ho. But I do like how they're written by 2 authors, so that'd be something that I would love to do maybe once on one book. But yeah, these books, let me just take this one because this was from World Book Day, but the Geek Girl. So basically it's about this person, this school kid, like she's like 15, 16, she's a geek, but she then becomes also a model. But what I like about this book, the chapters are very short, like some were just a page, which made it really, really easy to read these books really fast. So it was a very clever formatting idea. On to the next shelf. These books. Oh, let me just take, once again I'm taking the World Book Day book from 2013. Where's this one? This one was 2015, so I was 16. This I was I was still 13. And this I was still 15 because World Book Day is before my birthday. So I was 13 for like reading these books by Cathy Cassidy. So it was called The Chocolate Box Girls. And me and my best friend Natalie, I might be just making it up, but I swear Natalie did read these books as well. But what's annoying is the first 2 books look like this, the covers, and then the rest look like this. And it was really annoying because I remember waiting and waiting to then get other books that look like this cover, but never did. But I really like these books because I remember this one and the ones that I previously spoke about, the Science of Love, like, but more these one. It really got me into writing this little teenage love series, and I kind of, so it was like gonna be 4. One was like designer, fashion, like always drawing dresses. I kind of based them tiny bit on my friends. Another one, so that was called like Anna's Room. Anyway, and then another one was like act and everything. And then another one was like she was sporty, doing the like sprint run-ins, the competitions. And then the other one was dreaming to be a writer. Yeah, so I don't know where those, that must be my desk, but yeah, they were just cute little love stories, and I liked the idea that each book focused on a different character, but they were all still in the same world, and what happened in book 1 you then will see the couple in book 2 and book 3 and book 4, like, and so on. So that was really, like, these books influenced me to write those books. Now, I'm not talking about this one. We're going to talk about this one. This is a book that my first ever boyfriend gave me. Everything is Better With You. So cheesy. So cheesy. But basically, he gave me this for Christmas. Ever feeling down, like I think we were 16, 17, 16, 17, I think more 16. Here are all the things that make you amazing. So what do I love about you? Yeah, like he said, I love that you have integrity. And I respect that. And so I think it's so funny that you won't admit when you're wrong. So rude. But yeah, it's just, it was just a really nice thing, and I was like, oh, this is just a nice reminder that I am a great person. Not in a big-headed way, but just like I can do things if I put my mind to it, and it was just a nice little reminder. I have my favourite books, The Hunger Games. I'm really tempted to reread these books again, like since the prequel movies coming out. But Catching Fire is definitely my favourite. But I think what I liked about this series is, one, this is a series that's probably when I was a teenager, but I feel like these books are what reminded me why I enjoyed reading and got me back into reading and really got me back into writing. But also started to take writing a bit more seriously, like, oh, this could be something I could do in the future. But what I really liked about Katniss is first time I really saw myself in Katniss. And so whenever I think about representation and everything, I always think about this series and how I felt about seeing me in Katniss. So I think it's important, like, if you ever think about representation, or you just like, if you're one of those people who are a bit like, what are we on about? Just think about a movie or a series or a book that you have read that you see yourself in, and actually then you understand why representation is important. Because it's a reminder, it helps you remind yourself that you are important in this world and you can do great things that these wonderful characters do. Anyway, that is all on this area. Let's now go to the next part and see my favourite bookshelf that's the most organised. Welcome to the final bookshelf, the main one, the one that I've organised the most. Let's quickly go up here. As you can see, those are my dad's books. He decided to put them there. We won't be talking about them. But here, these are my hardcover books, plus one publishing book because I didn't know where to put that one. But as you can see here, the prequel for Hunger Games books. Now we move here to the literature books. A cute little picture saying, anyone who says they have only one life to live must not know how to read a book. Got that when I was like 14. Here we have the history fiction books. Historical fiction, that's what it's called. Now we're moving down. Here, it's all in alphabetical order by the surname. We have the crime slash thriller-ish books. We'll talk about this one, why I did put it here and not anywhere else. Here we have the fantasy novels. So great, aren't they? Oh, and over here, I would agree with you, but then we'll both be wrong. I feel like that's giving strong Gemini vibes, so I like it. And then the biggest genre that I have is my romance books. Whee, look at them. And some down here. And look, so here we have a bookmark of Winnie the Pooh. Here we have me and my sister. Here we have Shakespeare. Here we have a mug that my sister got me that's called Danger 16, which is a YA novel I wrote. Nowhere to be found, just on my laptop. And here is when I graduated from University of Gloucester for creative writing during 2020. But yeah, let's now go and talk about these wonderful books. Let's start with the hardcover books. I won't be talking about all, just some. First we're going to talk about this one. I got this for Christmas 2021. And I really enjoyed it. It is a series and it's coming out soon. Just can't wait. Me and my best friend, we both read it. So it's about Nella, who is 26 and she's the only black employer at this publishing company house until another employer comes in and she is also black, hence the other black girl. But then something starts happening and someone leaves a message saying leave Wagner now. Wagner's the publishing house. And everything just starts going woo, and Nella thinks that it could actually be the other black girl. Who knows? But I don't want to ruin it because it's very suspenseful. Is that even a word? But it will keep you on your toes because you have no idea what's happening. Not in a bad way that you're thinking, where's this author going with this? But more like, I need to know what's happening, like what the hell, like this is quite whoa. But it also highlights the difficulties of just working in a publishing house if you're not a person that's always been welcomed there, because as we know, the publishing industry, like many industries, it's very white men, or just white in general. We also have some publishing books, like just talking about how to publish, what to do, because as I've already mentioned so many times, I would love to publish a novel. Maybe more than one novel, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We shall see where my life will go. Let's go to literature books. Literature's not my favourite novels. I like more romance. I like crime a bit more. But I do sometimes enjoy reading literature just because it just gives another layer, and also I feel like literature is a good book to help to think about the world and everything. For example, with like Little Women, really like just talked about women, especially in this time, like, well, about white women in that era and how it was to just be seen as lesser than a man, even now, as women. Let's not get deep into that. Queenie was also a very good book, which I really liked. What I really liked was the formatting with the text messages. Don't know if you saw. But also, I feel like when we think of literature, we think of, for example, Little Women, or like the old literature classic books, whereas this one's more a modern literature book. And of course there's some areas that I will never truly understand, but there's some things that I'm like, I can relate in a certain way, which I enjoyed. And I believe this is also becoming a series or a movie. I just don't know when, but we shall see. And now, onto the historical novels. I love this book. I loved how easy it was reading it because of how it's split into parts. I love that it spoke about bisexuality, and because a lot of times in books it's either, like if they're part of the LGBTQ community, books is either about gayness, about gay couple or about lesbian couple, but luckily now there is more and more, like even now we need of course more couples, like gay couples and lesbian couples in books, but it's nice now that we're having more books that focus on bisexual characters or pansexual characters or asexual characters and other LGBTQ community characters, yeah. Which is nice. So there's that, this is probably one of my favourite books. Now onto the crime books. Now I put this here because it is a crime novel, but it's also a comedy novel, but I don't really have a comedy ever. Yeah. But it is a good, it's a funny crime novel. And I also didn't put in a romance because the main thing was this crime that happened. But I'll tell you what was the most creepiest one that I've read. And it's not Stephen King. It is this one. And the reason for it is because, so it's a serial killer, and if I recall, like he's killing people, but it's because it can happen in real life. That's what's creepy. It's not like certain things like, oh this is creepy, but it has werewolves, like it's not some fantasy thing that's like, you know, but this is creepy because it can happen in real life. You can be killed. It's same as this one. Both of these, what was creepy about it the most was the thought that this can happen in real life, like someone could easily kill me just because I'm a woman and you don't want anything to do with them, and they're like, I'm sad, so you die. So that's, it's that. Let's not talk about it anymore, but that's what I think, that's what's creepy about it. But I do like crime novels, and I would love to write a crime novel one day in my life. I think when I'm like 35, so I've got like 11 years. But I feel like crime novels, maybe because I've never actually tried to, I just think, but I feel like personally for me, they're probably one of the harder novels to write. For me, other people find it easier because you have to think of places to put a little sprinkle of like foreshadowing without the reader knowing, for them to, if they would reread the book, they'll be like, oh my god, why did I notice this? And all that. Of course you probably add that more during your revisions of your books and changing drafts, like editing and everything. But still, I'm like, and also with that book, I feel like you definitely have to start at the end. Like I always say, when you're writing a book, start at the end, like know how you want it to end. But with that, like crime novels, I feel like you definitely need to know how it ends, like who the killer is, because otherwise you just, you know, you just whining around and it's not gonna read that greatly. But yeah, on to for fantasy novels. This I got in year 7 when I was 11. I've not yet read. It's been over 10 years and I now kind of feel like I've been going for 10 years. Let's see how long more I can go for, you know? The book that actually got me started into fantasy is this one. Look at you. So shiny. I really like this. So it talks about the Arthur mythology, King Arthur, which I don't know a lot about, like the Sword and Stone. Woo! And yeah, which I actually kind of like because I feel like quite a lot of fantasy novels which talk about mythology is either Greek mythology or Vikings, Norse mythology, or like other mythology, like especially mainly Greek mythology, but there's more mythology out there. Whereas this one talks about Arthur, King Arthur, but also we do look into her ancestors and like there's this form of magical roots. And I really like, this is what got me into fantasy, is one of the first book I chose. Have yet to read the second one, but it's on there to be read, which I can't wait. Let's move on to the romances. We got a lot of romances. Okay, we're gonna go with my favourite one. This one. This is my favourite. Denise Williams. Read her. Read her books. You better read her books. If you take anything from this, read her books. She's a fabulous writer, and also she writes really well the multi point of views. So one chapter's Britta, well in this book, one chapter's Britta, one chapter's Wes, and so on, which is a very difficult thing to do, just because you might write one point of view much better than the other point of view, which then might make readers prefer maybe Britta's point of views and then stop reading or skim through Wes's point of views. But she does it really well, and a nice thing with it, you get to watch or witness both of them fall in love with each other, which is beautiful. I'm going to talk about this book, The Idea of You. Now, I didn't really know where to put this book, but I ended up putting a romance book part, even though technically it's not a romance because there's no, spoiler, no happy ever after. And if you are a writer, especially for a romance genre, you would know for a book to be counted as a romance, the couple have to end up with each other at the end, or be another like happy ever after for now, or like, yeah, that. Whereas this does not have this, so technically it's not a romance novel, it's a love story, but yeah, but I don't know where else to put it because it doesn't fit really anywhere else in this area. Otherwise I'll just have like one lone book and that wouldn't be nice. So she got lucky. But I did really like this book, and it makes you question about love and just be like, sometimes even if you know that maybe it won't last forever, you should still go for it just to create those memories that you will forever remember. This is my favourite bookshelf of how I categorise it. It could easily change, we'll see. I am hoping to fill it completely up and then end up having to get a new bookshelf. I am wanting a library, which means I need 1,000 books, and I'm very, very, very far away from it. I have like 120 something books or 130 something books. So with getting there, don't know when. I don't know when I'll achieve it. Let's say in 10 years time, when I'm 34, then we'll do that. But that is all from me. Have a great day and go and read some of these books that I mentioned because they are great, and you should read them if you want. Otherwise, that is all from me. Until next time. Bye. As you can see behind me, there is a bookshelf. But so let's go. This series. Oh, this is a bit dusty. Woo! Hopefully you can't see how dusty. What that people are thinking. No, no, no. First, I'm gonna pick this one. This is a great one. I love this one.